After years of arguing and endless denial, my wife of 25 years finally admitted to what I had long suspected. She had cheated during our engagement. This revelation was years in the making, a bitter truth I had pursued relentlessly but had never been able to fully pin down. In one heated moment, in the middle of yet another argument, she slipped up. It was almost as if the truth had been waiting to erupt all along. She finally admitted that during the time we were engaged, she had been with other people. For years, I had asked her about this. I had questioned her loyalty time and time again, seeking a definitive answer that would either clear her name or confirm my worst fears. In the early years of our marriage, she confessed to having cheated while we were dating, but never after the engagement. Each time I broached the subject, she would brush it off or downplay it, saying things like, "That was before we got serious," or, "I wasn't thinking clearly back then." She made it seem like it was a phase, an indiscretion that ended the moment we made a real commitment. And yet, something inside me never fully believed her. I carried this nagging doubt with me, unable to let it go. The reason she gave for cheating, both before and after the engagement, was that she didn't feel worthy of my love. She said she didn't believe someone like me would truly want to be with someone like her. As she explained it, her actions weren't motivated by a lack of affection for me but by her own insecurities. She confessed that even though I loved her deeply and asked her to marry me, she continued to sleep with others because she didn't think she deserved my love. I struggled to wrap my head around that. How could someone claim to love you and still betray you in such a fundamental way? How could someone make a lifelong promise with one hand while breaking it with the other? The strange thing is, now that I finally have the truth, I feel both a sense of relief and a deep sense of conflict. The relief comes from the closure. For years, there had been this unspoken cloud hanging over us. Every argument, every time she seemed distant, I would think back to those early suspicions. Was she lying? Had she been lying to me for decades? The doubt was corrosive, wearing away at the foundation of our marriage in ways that neither of us fully understood at the time. Now that she's admitted to cheating during the engagement, that cloud has dissipated somewhat. I finally know that I wasn't crazy or paranoid. My gut feeling had been right all along, and there's a strange kind of validation in that. But the conflict? The conflict is something else entirely. I can't help but think about what might have been. If she had told me the truth all those years ago, when I first suspected it, maybe we could have dealt with it then. Maybe we could have ended things before we even got married, or maybe we could have worked through it, and I could have forgiven her fully before we made our vows. Instead, she chose to lie, or at least, to withhold the full truth. For 25 years, we've been living in a marriage built on this false premise, this illusion that everything was fine between us when it wasn't. I feel robbed of the opportunity to make an informed choice back then. Instead of deciding whether I wanted to marry her with full knowledge of her actions, I was unknowingly deceived into thinking we were on the same page. I've asked her how many times she cheated and with how many people. She's been vague, evasive. She never outright denies that there were multiple people, which only makes it worse. The ambiguity eats at me. How far did it go? How often did it happen? Was it just physical, or were there emotional connections involved too? These are the questions that keep me up at night. While I've managed to forgive her for what happened before our wedding, the years of lies are harder to overlook. It's one thing to cheat before we got married, but it's another to maintain a lie for so long. I keep wondering if there were other lies along the way, other moments of infidelity that I don't know about. Once trust is broken, even in retrospect, it's hard to piece it back together. Moving forward seems like the logical thing to do. After all, we've built a life together. We have children, a home, a shared history that spans decades. Throwing all of that away over something that happened so long ago feels like a drastic and unnecessary step. But at the same time, how do you move forward when you feel like you don't have the full story? It feels like trying to build a house on shaky ground. Every time I try to rebuild my trust in her, the questions creep back in. Is there more she hasn't told me? Did she only admit to what she thought she could get away with? Am I still living in the dark about other parts of our relationship? Oddly, there's a part of me that feels relieved. We've been arguing about this for 25 years, and now that it's finally out in the open, I hope we can find some peace. The constant tension between us, the unspoken accusations, the lingering doubts, has been exhausting. Now that she's admitted to the affair, at least we're both on the same page. We're no longer pretending that everything was perfect in those early days. It feels like the beginning of a new chapter, one where we can hopefully address our issues more honestly. But here's the thing I can't shake. Was pushing her to confess the right move? By constantly bringing it up over the years, was I digging a deeper hole for us to fall into? Would it have been better if I had just let it go? Maybe I could have lived with the uncertainty. Maybe it would have been easier to carry on with the illusion rather than demanding the truth. Now that I know, I have this insatiable urge to know more, to get all the details, as if that would somehow give me peace. But will it? Or will it just make things worse? My wife says she regrets what happened back then, that she's a different person now. And part of me believes her. We've been through a lot together. We've faced challenges, supported each other, and created a family. Those things are real and they matter. But part of me still feels betrayed, not just by her actions during our engagement but by the years of deception that followed. It's hard to reconcile the woman I know now with the woman who cheated on me all those years ago. Are they the same person, or has she truly changed? And if she has changed, does that make the past easier to forgive? I don't have all the answers, and I'm not sure I ever will. What I do know is that the weight of this secret, now that it's been revealed, feels both liberating and suffocating at the same time. I feel lighter knowing the truth, but heavier with the burden of what to do with it. As we move forward, I'll have to decide whether I can live with the uncertainty of the past or if I'll keep pushing for more answers, more confessions, until there's nothing left to ask. For now, all I can do is take it one day at a time, hoping that eventually, we'll find a way to rebuild the trust that's been lost, even if it's not the same as it once was.